because when we hear, and this is where I was mentioning that I believe that I'm going to piss off Jay with this comment, because Jay is very critical of Gervonta Davis, and I don't think he keeps the same energy for Shakur Stevenson, meaning I just don't think it's level. I don't think it's balanced. I don't think, it's the same. And I know he tries to give him credit for being at 130 pounds, but in reality, we're talking about 135. And whatever Gervonta Davis does, it is not okay for Gervonta Davis, but for whatever reason, it's perfectly acceptable for all other fighters. I'm going to give you an example. When you look at Frank Martin, Frank Martin was a hell of a fight for Shakur Stevenson, which I thought it was a great fight for Shakur Stevenson as well. But as soon as Gervonta Davis announces that he's going to fight Frank Martin, then all of a sudden it becomes an issue. Pitbull Cruz is a great fight for everybody outside of Gervonta Davis. Mario Barrios has proven his worth, but for whatever reason, that fight was only good for anyone other than Gervonta Davis. So there seems to be a bias as it relates to Gervonta Davis and whoever he fights. I mean, it's clear as day to me. Now, many people will say, oh, well, that's because we don't feel like Tank has fought the best available opponents. But how is it that he's not fighting the best available opponents? Because it seems like to me, his resume is aging like fine wine as his former opponents fight other fighters, right? It's clear to me Mario Barrios is a lot better than what we anticipated. Pitbull Cruz is looking like a player at 140 pounds. So clearly he's fighting good fighters, good competition, yet we want to discard it as something other than that. Now, when last night Gervonta Davis called out, from what I've been told, I was trying to find a tweet, but Gervonta deletes his tweets a lot. But from what I was told, he called out Lomachenko. And there was pushback, right, Jay, on Twitter in regards to him calling out Lomachenko. However, everybody's perfectly okay with Lomachenko versus Shakur Stevenson, and I struggle with understanding that. Like, to me, with a title in his hands, and Jay, this is what you've used as an argument in the past, with a title in his hands, if Gervonta Davis were to face him, that means that he's fighting a champion, which is what you put a lot of emphasis on. So it should be okay for Gervonta Davis to face Lomachenko next, if it's okay for Lomachenko to face Shakur Stevenson. So that's been my take on it, and I struggle to see why there isn't any balance there, right? With the Gervonta Davis detractors, Jay. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't understand that neither. It's like, I thought Frank was a good fight for Shakur. Hell, we were talking big shit for that. We were happy as heck for that fight to potentially be happening last year. Same thing with Loma. I wanted Loma to fight Shakur as well. So if Loma fights either one of them, it's not. I think it's a great fight either way. But it's like they're trying to save Loma for Shakur, saying that it's not good for Tank. It doesn't make sense to me, And like real shit, 30 say Bob protecting Loma, I believe. That's why he's steering away from Shakur. I mean, Shakur should have been had that fight with Loma. I was pissed off with the way they did Shakur when Loma lost to Dev and stayed at number 1. They screwed Shakur over in the sanction, but I think it was a WBO, I believe it was. WBO or WBC, I forget which one it was, but they screwed him over. And I was pissed that Shakur didn't go out harder at Bob and tell him to get that fight, as well as at the sanction bond. Like, hey, how y'all gonna push me down for number 1 when this dude just lost? Whether or not you thought he won or not, he got the L. There's no way Shakur should have been pushed down to number 2. So I mean, either way, I see what Shakur's out there. He's clamoring for the fight because he wants to try to make up for his fight against Edwin De Los Santos and everything. But these people got to keep it a buck when they're just PBC or Tank haters saying that it's not good for Tank to get a Loma fight, but it's good for Shakur. It's not good for Tank to fight Frank. After saying that Tank doesn't fight black fighters, slick back fighters, and all this, then the third, but he's doing all that now. But it's still not good enough. when Frank's a top five on lightweight at this current time at 135, he's a top five easily right now. So I mean, this is going to be a good fight with Tank and Frank, but Tank and Loma, I think that'd be a good fight as well.
Yeah, I see here they're talking about Tank should fight a prime fighter. Okay, and I'm fine with. I don't know if Lomachenko is in his prime. I'm fine with that if he's not in his prime. If we want to make the argument that he's not in his prime and we don't want to see Gervonta Davis in the ring with a fighter that's not in his prime, that's cool. But then also you should feel the same way about Shakur Stevenson. I don't want to hear you talking about Shakur Stevenson that's an okay fight. Why? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. If Shakur comes up and fights Lomachenko, then I don't want to hear nothing about, I want to hear that same energy. Why is Shakur Stevenson fighting Lomachenko? He's not in his prime. I want to hear the same argument. That's my only issue. Just keep it the same on both sides. That's all I really care about. And the thing about this is, so that argument is made. Gervonta Davis should be fighting a fighter that's in his prime. He's going to fight Frank Martin, who's 29 years old. And when you think about it, he's got to be at least a top 5, 135 pounder. But that's not a good fight either. Okay, so what is a good fight then, dog? Because the only good fights for Gervonta Davis is Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney or I don't even know if Ryan Garcia, maybe Tio. But anybody Shakur fights is a good fight. Make it make sense, dog. Make it make sense. That's where I'm, dog. I want to hear that same energy, because isn't Shakur fighting the guy that gave Tank? I can't remember. I don't know. Yeah, that Tank. That Frank beat, but gave Frank some problems. He's fighting that same guy, but yet I ain't heard no issues with it yet. No one said anything negative about it yet. So that's my issue, man. Just keep the same energy, dog. Like, I'm cool with. If you feel like you need to criticize Tank, I'm not gonna give Tank that same criticism because I feel like I'm good with what he's doing right now. And I think he's talking about Shakur is on the hit list. He's talking about Loma. He's talking about guys who are top fighters at 135. And now that's an issue, right? I'm cool with what he's doing. If you have an issue, if you're finding caveats or nuances that you believe discredit Gervonta Davis for whatever reason, that's fine. As long as you keep that same energy with the other guys. That's all I really care about, Jay.
No, yeah, I fully agree with that. And we had said last year before this fight got announced for Tank, like this year we need to see Tank fight 1 or 3 people. This before Devin got beat by Ryan is what we said. Devin, Frank, or Shakur. Mm-hmm. Those were the 3 fights we wanted to see him fight. He's fighting Frank right now. Yep. He's also said that Shakur is on his list on his 6 to 7 fight deal.
Yep.
He also said Loma's on that list as well. So I mean, I'm not sure what the hell else Tank has to do at this point in time. And then I'm like, Tank wins these fights, then people are gonna be like, oh well, he aged this person out, he did this, he did that. I'm like, y'all can't have it both ways, man. I mean, one person said that Tank would never fight a black fighter. And here we are with him and Frank on June 15th. Can't wait.
Facts.
And I like Frank too.